guys, like prescription drugs. So imagine like you just had surgery and like you're in a lot of pain and they just keep like giving you pills, but your body is not like set up for it. Like your body can't handle some prescription drugs, just like any other person in the world today. And today, a lot more alternative methods are coming out and being legalized for us to put to use and just make treatments a lot more safer today. And some of them are effective and they have less side effects for some people. So it's just kind of an ongoing discussion that we're going to dive into deeper today and kind of discuss. So the main point I'm going to try and get across is just that there are more and more options today for treatment for any for disorders or for just like simple everyday pain tolerance. And so we're going to go and kind of look at the two sides that there are for prescription drugs, and then the other one is going to be for the newer alternative methods. And then we're going to go into and look at kind of the coercion that there is. That I'm not trying to make it seem or push for one side, but I'm just trying to give facts about the coercion that there is in the mental industry. And then lastly, we're going to dive into the discussion, and I have a couple of questions for you guys that we can kind of talk about, get a better understanding of what's going on here. So this is relevant today because we all go through pain. We all have, a lot of people have a lot of underlying conditions that they don't know what to use for or what drugs or methods to help cure these issues. And so it affects everybody. It doesn't matter if you had surgery or if you are just have a headache from day to day or whatnot. So this is kind of relevant to all of us, and this affects our livelihoods in more ways than you would think. So the articles that I used were, one is called Medicinal and Pharmaceutical Medicines, and this was a article that kind of brought together a lot of different pieces of information, and it took from medical journals and medical papers, so that's where its credibility really comes. And then there was a CBD oil article which goes through and is a reviewed article from a doctor. And then I also looked into a CNN interview that discussed kind of the coercions that go on in the medical industry. And then there were two other ones, and I can't remember the names right now, but both of them kind of go along with these ideas, but just kind of provide some additional material that kind of just add to what I'm trying to get at. So the first view we're going to talk about is that of prescription drugs, and that's kind of going to basically go over the pros of the prescription drugs and kind of what people have against alternative methods. And so for prescription drugs, they're basically synthesized compounds, chemical compounds that are meant to cure a disease. They literally do plenty of research on it. They have to go through trials and a bunch of FDA testing and to make sure that this compound and this drug is as good as it can get and be safe for the individual that's taking it. That's also the specificity is one pro that people really like, but at the same time, they've found out that many of the drugs that we take, for example, there's a diabetes drug for women that it's called metformin, and if you take it for at least 3 years, it has been shown to reduce your chances of getting breast cancer by 25%. So these drugs are meant to cure one disease, but there has been known effects for other diseases which kind of really help out its case. Another one is just basically the testing. They do all this research and all this testing on it to make sure that these drugs are safe for consumption and that they're not going to hurt you if you take it right. And so the other side of that, the kind of the cons that this side has for the alternative methods is that a lot of them haven't been researched that well, and they're very brand new, and they're kind of like, don't really have that many, they have a lot of question marks attached to them. An example is a big one, I mean the main one that I'm going to use is CBD oil, just because that's a hot topic right now, and or CBD products because of the marijuana debate. But there's not really any scientific data that shows how the effects of it are long term. We don't really know. Like, it's just really come into the media, into the social light recently, and so we haven't done the research on it to see how it affects people long term. And the big one is like the pharmaceutical companies are trying to say that they're not legal yet, so why would we want people to take drugs that we don't consider them to be legal? So that's kind of the two big ones that that side has. So then next we're gonna go over the other side of the ones who are for the alternative methods, and their basically go-to points are that these can be a lot safer if they're like, they can be a lot safer and have a lot less side effects if they're overused. These drugs have been known to help actual disorders that the pharmaceutical companies don't want people to know, like the use of CBD oil in the article I read shows that it is used for, or it can actually slow the growth of cancer cells within a person's body, and that it can be used to treat mental disabilities like depression and other disorders that we would have to take drugs for and can be harmful. Another reason is that they're very inexpensive compared to pharmaceutical drugs, which a lot of people can't afford to continue to take these drugs, like for stomach issues and stuff like that, and like it's too costly on them and it hurts their way of living. So these drugs could give a cheaper option to people. And then some things they have against the pharmaceutical drugs is that some of these drugs can be taken wrong, and they do actually can cause some harm. And I'm going to use this for my next point too, but this is just a statistic from 2010. It just shows how what the drug overdoses were and how many deaths it caused in the United States compared to some other major factors. So drug overdoses actually accounted for more deaths than car crashes and firearms, and we consider those to be like some major causes of death within our country. So it's just kind of a scary statistic, and this is kind of one of the reasons why people are slowly becoming more and more slowly starting to think that these drugs could be a better option for some drugs. And then so that's that. And then my last point that I want to get at is just kind of the coercion that's going on in the pharmaceutical industry. I read the article from a CNN interview that kind of went over how big pharmaceutical companies are actually bribing and giving money to physicians to shove their painkillers and their opioid pain relievers as the #1 treatment option for patients. And this can also lead to a big problem, because a lot of people will take these and have so much pain that they don't know another way to solve that pain. And when you overuse opioid pain relievers, that's when you start to see the side effects, and that's how pharmaceutical drugs get a very bad name, because they think that you overuse them and they're just going to kill you. But I mean, realistically, I'm just trying to be kind of neutral here, but even if you overuse anything, you could take in a lot of vitamin C or a lot of different aspects that we only think of as good, and they can become toxic. So it's just how, if you use it the right way and use it in the recommended dose, like anything can be good, and if you don't, anything can be bad. So that's just kind of a big point that I think that we need to get across to everybody and kind of come together and just eradicate, so that we don't have to worry about this issue, and just people who get the treatment that they deserve and that they fits them. So today we went over the two different sides competing for the different drug and treatment options that we have, and then we went over the big question and the big issue with our medical industry is in regards to this topic. So just lastly, like, I hope you take this information and just kind of like think about that. And if you ever, especially like in the next couple of years, when a lot of these options and these alternative methods come into play and become legal, and you're allowed to choose for a treatment option, just like take in this information and just be aware, and so that you can also make an aware decision and an informed decision to give yourself the best treatment option that you can get. So I want to start off and just say.
I just want to say, if you can ask just one question.
Just one.
Just because it's done.
Yep. Yep. So with the information that I discussed on both topics, like, what are your feelings? Like, do you think that we are just overusing these drugs and not really giving the alternative methods an option from what you've heard in the media, or how would you prescribe, like, if you were a doctor, like, what would you do? All right, we'll make it a little bit less general, I guess. So if you just had like an everyday pain, like a headache, a migraine, like your muscle pain, like from the information given, what would you rather have? Like, what would your treatment option be if you could choose between the two? Yeah, and like that's a big thing that we're seeing now, is that a lot of people are starting to try and do this and trying to do the more natural way. Like, have not necessarily like drugs, like CBD or anything like that, but has anyone heard of like any other like natural remedies that people use for like aches or pains?
Arnica?
Yeah. Though there was a couple that they kind of went over in one of the articles, and it was that like a lot of people, and I've heard it from before, like you use like ginger and like other natural herbs to cure like stomach problems, and so that's definitely one of them. So if you had surgery, how would you go about like if you were prescribed these opioids to reduce your pain, like how would it change? Would this information change how you went about using them, and why?
If I had just gotten out of surgery, I'm like in an intense amount of pain, like obviously I'm gonna want to take something that helps it, but if it's like a bearable amount of pain, I just like stop.
Yeah, and see, I feel like that's like a big issue with these numbers, and that's why I'm kind of neutral on it. Like, I feel like we should just just kind of explore both options, and doctors actually like look into what is the best treatment plan for someone. But a lot of people take these pills and they don't really think. They're just like, oh, I need to get rid of this pain, and they just hammer these drugs and don't really think about the consequences, when the doctor should be like telling them about how dangerous some of these can be if you overuse them. So this issue is kind of like, I feel like it's going to just get bigger, because a lot of these businesses are going to come out as being like kind of corrupt, and just they're trying to push their product, which won't really look good in the public's eyes. And especially once these other alternative methods come into play, I feel like there's going to be a lot of talk, and a lot of things are going to change within the medical